Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Matthew 11, verse 28 to 30. Surrender. We talk about it, we sing about it, and we wonder about it. We lift our hands in response to it, and we live our lives in pursuit of it. Our spirit subconsciously longs for it, and our minds need to be reminded to choose it. It guards, protects, and guides. Surrender. It's an offering. It's an act of trust. It's an act of love. It's more than lifted hands. It's an abandoned heart. Surrender. What is the first thing that comes to your mind when I say this word? Merriam-Webster defines this word is to give up oneself into the power of another, especially as a prisoner. Have you ever felt like a prisoner before? Trapped and contained by things that seem out of your control? This word broken down can be described by actions like handing over, laying down, turning in, turning over, or waving the white flag. But surrendering to Christ is so much more than waving a white flag. Where a white flag primarily symbolizes a truce, surrender symbolizes the act of laying down your life, living on your knees with open hands, open heart, and the cry, Lord, have your way. Surrender. When was the last time that you were fully surrendered? It's something that you may spiritually forget, but you can't go long without. And while it is evident within ourselves when we do surrender, it will eventually surface as even more evident within ourselves when we do not. And what if you've tried surrendering before, but it didn't make the troubles cease? When you've been surrendered, but you're still on unemployment after you were promised this wouldn't last long? When you've been surrendered, but are still the only one fighting for your marriage? What about when you've been surrendered, but your loved one still reaches for the bottle? When you've been surrendered, but the war within your mind has not eased? When you've been surrendered, but the report still hasn't changed? When you've been surrendered, but were wronged and hurt by people in positions that still get away with it? Surrender. Will you do it again? Surrendering again is knowing that you don't have much in that given moment or situation, but what you do have is the offering that you bring to God to use. It is the releasing of some, but the gaining of so much more. Surrendering the angst to have peace again. Surrendering the fear to have courage again, to breathe again, to be still again, and to know that He is God again. It is out of this knowing that the moment comes when we can allow ourselves to release what is not ours to carry. When we act on the opportunity to surrender, we are choosing to release whatever it may be out of our grip and into the most trustworthy hands. The one who has your name written on the palm of His scar-filled hand, as it says in Isaiah 49, verse 16. The one who offered Himself to pay our sins once and for all, Hebrews 7, verse 27. The one whose yoke is easy and burden is light, Matthew 11:30. The one who will bring to completion the good work that He started, Philippians 1, verse 6. And the one who restores sight, like John 9, verse 6 and 7 says. The one who touches the unclean, Matthew 8, verse 3. And the one who casts no stone, John 8, verse 11. The one who knew no sin but became it on our behalf, like 2 Corinthians 5 verse 21 says, and the one who is the beginning and the end, like Revelations 1 verse 8 says, the one who is the lion and the lamb, Revelations 5. This is the God that we are surrendering to. And when we stand on that assurance, it becomes clear that it was never meant to be a scary thing, but a sacred thing. It's a grace gift. It's much harder to release when unsure of the fullness of who you're releasing it to. It requires knowing who God is. And it equally requires knowing what surrender isn't. Surrendering isn't giving up. It is giving it all to the one who paid it all. Surrendering isn't weakness. It is the strongest thing that you could do. Surrendering isn't the big all-over win where the chapter ends and the story concludes, but it is the accumulation of every small sacrifice and offering in every page along the way. And out of the kindness and generosity of God, there isn't a limit on the number of times that we can surrender. Jesus isn't a scorekeeper. He is a champion defender, like Psalms 4 verse 1 says. We receive an open-ended invitation when Jesus says, "Come to me all." He doesn't tally up to penalize at the end of each day. He offers to help carry the load Himself. And one of the best things that he offers us is the opportunity to surrender again. Because we know God is kind, we surrender again. Because we know God is faithful, we surrender again. And because we know God is steady even when nothing else is, we surrender again. Because we know God is both grace and truth, we surrender again. And because we know that God is both incredibly strong and incredibly gentle, we surrender again. Because we know God is both the lion and the lamb, we surrender again. Because we know that God is both the author and the finisher, we surrender again. And his yoke is easy, his burden is light. So we stand like we sing in church with arms high and heart abandoned in awe of the one who gave it all. And this is how we surrender again.